afternoon, everybody. I call this the graveyard slot. At about 3 o'clock, all the carbs have settled in. A bit of snoozing at the back. Yeah, okay. So I'm Andy Bannister. I work for a company called Tollring. One of our products is Analytics365. So our history is taking data from calling platforms, PBXs, cloud phone systems, and giving actionable insights to customers to help them run their businesses better, improve customer service, and all that other good stuff. Now, like everybody else in the world, the move to Teams happened a lot quicker through the last few years than we were anticipating. So we developed an offering for Microsoft Teams, and what it enabled us to do was to go, we've got more than calling data, we've got lots of excellent information through the Microsoft information. So then suddenly, instead of just looking at has somebody answered a phone call or missed a phone call, we've got chats, we've got meeting information, we've got all the goodness in Microsoft Teams. So that led us into collaboration analytics. So today we're going to talk about how people are using Microsoft Teams, but how analytics can actually turbocharge how they're using it to get the most out of it. Because as a lot of people did, they sort of fell into it through the pandemic, and now they're going, are we using it to the best of its ability? So a bit of background on this. So this is interesting. Hybrid working is becoming the norm. Unfortunately, I was at Cisco Live a couple of weeks ago, and they admitted that hybrid working, whilst we're getting there, it's still not working for everybody. There's still a long way to go. We think we're good at it, but about only 50% of the people actually admitted to nailing hybrid working. So lots of change out there. This is from a LinkedIn survey that was done last year, and everybody's looking at greater flexibility. 81% of business leaders want to offer more flexibility. A lot of people are now looking to stay at home a lot more. This isn't news to everybody, but the job market as well, it's key to be able to support that hybrid working environment and make it work. So it's all well and good having a hybrid working policy to say you can stay at home 4 days a week, but how do you actually run your business or run a business and operation in that environment and understand that it's working as well as it did when you had eyes on in the room, people at desks, and all that good stuff? I know some businesses have always worked remotely and some have always been a bit hybrid, but it's a big change for a lot of people out there. So this evolution's happening, but how is the technology going to support remote working when most companies went overnight from being in an office to, I'm on a Teams video call 24/7. Well, not 24/7, maybe 6 hours a day, back to back, then again. So, the modern workplace. And out the back of that, in the last couple of years, is this, the concerns over well-being. I mean, who hasn't skipped a lunch or a toilet break or all three of them during the day when you've just been forced into this schedule of meeting to meeting to meeting? It wasn't like that before, was it? I do 3 meetings a day and I've been really busy. Now it's 8 to 10. So the concerns on well-being of how are staff being looked after in this hybrid environment is really important. How do you even understand whether people are overworked, underworked, getting stressed out? Another big concern that we're seeing is consistency of customer experience. Previously, when people had their systems in place, they had a pretty good idea that if they had their calling set up on their PBX or their cloud calling and they had the stats, they'd understand that they were delivering the right customer service level. You move into this hybrid environment, and I'm not even talking about just hybrid working between, say, locations, but hybrid platforms. Some organizations are sat there with half their systems on an old UC platform, some in Teams, some on Cisco. I think the stats show that most companies have more than one, let's not swear, but more than one collaboration service, not just Teams. There's something else in their business. So how do you deliver the right customer experience? And managing people. If you're managing a team of people that have suddenly moved into a hybrid environment and you don't have the tools to see what's going on, sometimes you're just working blind. You're just looking at a calendar entry, trying to understand, are they being productive, are they doing the right things? We've given them the tools, but are they using them and collaborating properly? And I think I can't remember what the video was, but I watched one Microsoft video. They talk about sort of attention management and that sort of interrupt of you're working and a Teams message pops up and the next distraction, and then you have to start from the beginning again. How do you make sure that this is working for everybody in your organization? So I can't remember where this came from, but what Microsoft said about it is that in order to try and get hybrid working for everybody, is they sort of like base it on 5 sort of foundations. Firstly, get organized, focus on the people, focus on well-being, and then once you get through that, you can start focusing on outcomes and customers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through these and look at them each in turn to see how analytics can be used to improve these situations within customers with Microsoft Teams. So firstly, we talk about get organized. They talk about establishing the rules of engagement. How should you work? The frequency of communication. Even our business, we still haven't got it right whether I should just be IMing people for instantaneous responses or should I wait for periods? Should they be responding to emails instantly? But establish your sort of rules of engagement about frequency, the means and the channels that you're communicating with your people on, and the timing and what's expected. I know sometimes we think that email's meant to be real time, but it really shouldn't be real time. So establish the rules, and then the next one is really provide the resources to get hybrid working correct. I mean, there's loads of vendors out there that will give you the right certified hardware to give them the right experience, and also things like network quality. What we've experienced is we've gone to the hybrid environment and you look at people's network quality when they're on video calls, and I can almost look at a chart and go, those 3 are all on Virgin Media because it's all red. What does that mean to ensure that they're being successful? So provide the resources for success. Set the team up for success as well. So that again, I'd say that a lot of organisations fell into using Teams without maybe the right... is there a disco going on outside? I just hear the tune. Without the right sort of understanding as to how Teams should be used for their productivity, basing Teams around people as opposed to activities. I'll admit, our company was pretty guilty of it. We set up a channel for every project, and suddenly we had this ballooning of Teams channels, and it was out of control. So pare that all down. So we find the grouping by people is the way forward. And then finally, it's like, promote smart working within teams. What are the best practices for people? The interactions, the meetings, and the messages. There's time to be spent within a business to understand, actually, I've got different roles of people, and should they be spending so much time in internal meetings versus external meetings? Should they be collaborating? Should they be high collaborators or low collaborators? So all based on their sort of job role and what you want to get from them. Until you've sort of written this down on a page to understand what we think is best for our organisation, it's not really, there's no need to measure it. But once you've written it down, it's then more important to see what's going on within your business. So as a sort of example of that is how would you actually stay organised with analytics? So what I'm doing is I'm just going to pull out a few examples of this and say actually, we're not a network monitoring solution, but we have it in an analytics tool. So the network quality, when I look at this chart of users over the last month in my team and go, actually, look, Sophia's got some really bad network quality. What does that make me do as a man manager? Well, a couple of things. One, do I need to ask her to upgrade her broadband so she can have some good quality video calls? The other thing might not be that. Go and get some mesh Wi-Fi to make it work better in your house. But it might be a management decision through the analytics to say that actually, Sophia's got a really critical meeting with a customer coming up. Do you know what? Jump in the car and actually come into the office and carry out that call from a location where you get good quality. So those analytics will allow you to make those decisions to have a better working practices within your business. Another sort of area, once you've got organised, is like the best practices within a team. So this is something called, like, I think it's call summary by people, and it's a view of how much calling a team of 5 people are doing, whether it's group calling, video, audio, and phone, you know, and it's looking at maybe your sort of teams are going, look, I've got some high performers here, and they exhibit these sort of behaviours, and I've got some low performers, and maybe they exhibit these behaviours where they don't have their video on. So you can understand what looks like in your business, and then maybe try and replicate it and manage that within your business. So, and also the mix of internal and external. The other thing that's quite interesting is trying to understand how people are communicating, whether it's like one-on-one or group calling. You know, are they using Teams as a UC platform and just having single interactions, or are they actually collaborating and pulling people in and sharing knowledge? So with the analytics, you can actually understand how they're using the system and try and move their best practices forward. I've got no idea on timing, by the way, so when I start overrunning, throw that speaker at me. So, moving on to well-being, this seems to be quite a big thing that we talk to our customers about, is this sort of like overload, etc. So, what I'd say about the focus on well-being is that you need to know your people. A lot of analytics tools out there sit at a very high level where you get overall analytics on a business and some trends. But what we've done is we've put a tool in the hands of the man managers. So it sits as an app in Microsoft Teams. So if you're managing 10 people, you have the app, you're looking at your people. And the analytics are only really as good as you know your people. So firstly, you've got to know your people and understand what sort of the level looks like, and then it's all about spotting trends up or down, and that could be anything from their activity levels to their chat sentiment is going more red or less red. You know, it can to understand how they are. Another interesting one is driven by events. What we do internally is say we have a company briefing and the CEO gets on the video call and delivers an amazing message, some great news. We then go and monitor the chat sentiment for the next 24 hours to see if that great news has landed the message or not. And if he hasn't done a great job, we'll tell him to do it again or change the message. So it's interesting to look at that sort of the analytics post an event within a business as well. Something that's very less analytics is, for well-being, is to sort of exhibit empathy with your team. You know, people are unique, and what I'd say about this piece is that analytics helps, but it doesn't replace management. You know, you're managing a team, and what it is, it's a guiding tool to help reaffirm decisions or thoughts that you may have. It's absolutely not a replacement for proper management. And another interesting one is for well-being is encouraging social interactions. And this is an interesting one. We've got a how do I put it, a Teams channel for celebrations within Tollring. So anything good that's happening, you know, parties, events, etc., goes in there. So you can monitor the activity in that team and see how much fun and social interactions there are happening within a business. But also, I mean, weekly socials. We have lots of different weekly socials independently, and we monitor those to see how well attended they are. So, you know, sometimes you kick off an initiative and say, I'm going to have a weekly social with the sales and marketing team, and it starts with all the people on there and soon dives off, so you can monitor that and understand how well teams are working together. So when you look into the when you look into it with analytics, one of the ones that I think I've just mentioned before that I find quite interesting is sort of chat sentiment. So we send off chats to a scoring service. We don't look at the messages, but we get back a score. And if you looked at this graph without any knowledge of those people, your instant reaction might go, well, so Sophia's a bit angry, isn't she? There's a lot of red in there. Is she angry? But you need to know the people. She's just a very enthusiastic, feisty person, and I would get more concerned when Sophia's red dropped down, because I would see that she's disengaged, and that might then be a well-being problem, a mental health issue, or maybe she's looking for another job. So looking at this data on a weekly, monthly basis to trend how people are interacting on Teams is a really good thing to do. So volume, sentiment. Another thing that we like in the wellbeing piece is really the collaboration network. Now, this is a demo data, so it's a bit ugly, but we have an option to look on a per-person basis to go, actually, if I look at Stuart and I look at his collaboration network in Teams, who is he working with and how frequently and how much? So looking at things like meetings, chats, calls, video calls, summing it all up together and going, actually, he's talking to these 4 people the most, and the next. And as you look at these people in a team, you can go, are they working with the right people? Are they changing the people they're working with? But again, from a management position, man manager position, it's really useful to understand, are you getting the most out of your people? Are they okay? If I find Stuart's talking to HR too much, I know I've got a problem, right? So we'll go and address that. So focusing on people, this really is, as I said before, it's like a balance between mentoring and managing people. Not using analytics as the first part of the conversation, but using it in conjunction with what you know about the people. And I think the one lesson that I've sort of learned is that there's no real sort of right or wrong. You can't look at analytics and go, these numbers are here, therefore this is happening, and this is the result. It's absolutely a guide to help you make a decision. The other thing that we've picked up on is, in this remote hybrid workplace, is are man managers spending enough one-on-one time with the appropriate people within their team or within the business? I have weekly calls with the team. Do I spend enough time individually giving them the time that they need or don't need on an ongoing basis? So we believe that scheduling one-on-one time and understanding how they're being managed is pretty key. And the other thing into that is roles and change. So as people come into roles or change their role, they may need more or less one-on-one time. I know that I look at my collaboration network, I've got a new starter, he's at the top of the list for the first 3 months because I'm on with him 3 hours a day to get him off the ground. Somebody who's an absolutely seasoned professional, I might talk to him 5 minutes a week because he can just get on and do his job. And then finally is sort of self-care, is giving people the view of, sometimes people don't understand when they're close to burning themselves out and they're doing too much. So we've introduced some sort of dashboards in the product at a personal level where you can check and see, look, am I doing too much out of hours? Am I doing way too much back to back? Am I spending enough time with my manager and colleagues? So self-care is important. So some examples of what focusing on people looks like through the view of analytics. I'm just going to say this is the first time this deck's been used, so I have no idea what's coming up on every click. So this is an interesting one. I'm in sales, so I picked an example from my team. I've anonymized the data, and they're not in the room, so we'll be all right. So this is the story of 2 sales reps. So this is one card called Meeting Overviews. Over the same period of time, 30 days, they're in the same role and they essentially joined the team at the same time. If I didn't tell you anything else, the conclusions that you might jump to might be, any guesses?
One's not doing participating in selling business.
Yeah, you might jump to the conclusion there's a performance issue. But what I would say is that they're the same role, they've got the same target as well, interestingly. But is it a performance issue? And the reality is, because I know them and I know where they are in their role, I absolutely know that this is not a performance issue. It's just that this guy, on the way into the sales team, was gifted 3 massive, lumpy opportunities that are keeping him really, really busy, whereas he's building pipeline. So it's just an example of saying that you can look at data and go, you know, there's top, middle, and bottom, but ironically, you've got to know the people, and it just gives you the feedback. 5 minutes? Right, we're speeding up. Okay, focus on analytics. The other interesting one is this sort of one-on-one time, and I tell you, it's changed the way that I manage people. And sometimes when somebody who works for me calls me out of the blue, I'm going, are you just trying to get your stats up? You're trying to make it look like we've got a better one-on-one relationship, but actually I just trust him to get on with what he does. So this is a view really of a team leader, William Thomas, and his team. So it looks at him and his team. How much time is he spending with each one of them in Teams, on chats, on calling? How much time are they spending? I don't know, I've got a laser pointer, I don't know why I put arm waving. Yeah, how much time are they spending one-to-one versus in a group? And then some useful insights. Now this is demo data, but ironically, when you look at these things in real life, what you find is sometimes there's a couple of these with almost no interaction in a team. And then you ask your questions, have they just been forgotten by the manager? Are they so self-sufficient they never have to talk? But it gives you visibility to help manage a team much better than without it. So time in a group. And the other thing is, like, which roles need more management as well. It's quite interesting, you know, if you had a couple of junior people in here taking a load more management, it's good to understand that. So focusing on outcomes, this is a very wordy one. I couldn't get this cut down from here, so I'll summarize. The working practices within Microsoft Teams are trying to understand in a sort of using Teams what works and what doesn't work. You can start comparing sort of outcomes. So if you say we were running multiple projects to deliver something, and you look at what happened on time and what was successful versus what didn't work as well, you can then go back and look at the data and go, right, how much interaction was there? How many postings were there? How much collaboration was there? How many meetings were there? Oh, look, the cadence on the left was really low, and this one was they were highly engaged and they worked remotely really, really well. So you can look at it at the Teams environment. The other thing is, as you go into like the calling side of Microsoft Teams, this is really what we've done for years, is the activity levels in Teams and some of the telephony stuff that people have had for years. So this is sort of like the example of if you had 2 project teams and you say, you know, you might have this one which was the success story and this one which wasn't such a success story, you'd be able to see what was the behavior in each one of those, comparing teams within Microsoft Teams. Let's stop using the word teams, or we're at a Teams conference. So compare teams and then understand the collaboration and performing of the teams. Calling stats, if you've got direct routing, Operator Connect, or a calling plan, we can take all of that information into the analytics platform as well, so you can monitor your agents, your queues, and understand what good looks like. Now, the interesting thing is we've had this problem across the board for the last couple of years, that people have monitored had their telephony in-house. It's now hybrid, but how do they adhere to the same customer service levels without the analytics? So this is the answer to that. Right, finally, I'm probably almost dead on time. No, I'm not, I'm behind. Final one, focusing on customers. And this really comes down to the customer experience and optimizing the customer-facing teams, improving call handling, and setting the service levels to drive customer satisfaction. This is all linked into, if you're using Teams for calling and they're calling in, how do you ensure that you're delivering the right level of customer service? So this is what we've done on calling platforms for years. Things like understanding call volume trends, you know, understanding the peaks. So as you can see here, the answer to missed calls, this business definitely has a problem where everybody disappears for lunch, or goes for a walk, or hits the treadmill at lunchtime and forgets about answering the phone. So as a manager of that, I'd be staffing appropriately, splitting the lunch hours. But it's good. good to be able to see all of that across the Microsoft Teams environment. And then this is another one that we've done for years, is the concept of a unreturned missed call. So every time a call comes into Microsoft Teams and somebody in your business doesn't answer it, is that a lost revenue? You know, because you didn't speak to a customer or you didn't take an order. With this, we basically give the list of the unreturned missed calls. If the person calls them back, it disappears off the list. So that drives customer satisfaction. Where are we? Right, so down to the last 2 slides. So Analytics365, our booth is out there.
It's a breakneck, so you don't feel you have to rush.
I was rushing through.
Sorry, don't feel you have to
Right, let's go back 5 slides. No. I was going to do a live demo. No. So the key thing is that a lot of people we've spoken to today, like we've come from the sort of telephony world where people like monitoring people's performance and grade of service and all the rest of it. And a lot of the questions we get is, how do people feel about being monitored? Well, it sort of goes on all over the place. But what I say is for visibility, this is not sort of spying on employees, but it's for insights and not answers. Because goods can look really different depending on your organisation, how people work, what you're trying to achieve, where people are in their careers, etc. And really just to enable smart decisions to help you change or enhance your team's environment. So the 3 main things we focus on is really internal focused collaboration and employee engagement. We have this piece around sort of external focused collaboration and customer experience and well-being, all delivered in an app in Microsoft Teams. So the one thing that we try and do is to like deliver it into the hands of a manager so they can be in there and understand what's going in. So custom dashboards, you can build as many dashboards as you want, add your cards in there and customize them. We start off with default dashboards to get you sort of understanding what you can do, and then you move into creating something that works for you and your business. So it's definitely a very customizable solution. So with that, I'd say any questions? I've managed to talk non-stop for 25 minutes.
When you're looking at the analytics for the messaging, does that also include chat messaging within channels and private channels, or is it just one-to-one chat? Yeah, so
when you look at some of the cards, we break down between basically one-to-one messages, channel messages, replies, and we count replies in app messages as well, and replies, and also break out external as well. So as a sales team, I encourage my sales team to chat on Microsoft Teams to our customers, and I can see how much external interaction they have on there. So yeah, it can all be broken down.
I don't know if anyone else has another question, but I have as well, another one. You said the dashboard at the end, you've got that as a manager level. Can a user have that viewpoint as well of their own data?
Yeah, 100%. So it's designed at a sort of so basically the hierarchy from Microsoft comes in, we pull it from the directory, so the hierarchy that you've got in there is then inherited by our app. So if I've got 5 people reporting to me in Microsoft, I see those 5 people. If I was one of those people, sort of say at the bottom where I have nobody reports to me, I get my own dashboard called My Analytics, which gives me my own view, that well-being piece. I also get a piece called Insights, which gives me some useful information about my behavior. And then my team manager could open up my permissions to allow me to see more if I wanted to. So if I was in that sort of, I know I'm sales, I'm going to revert back to sales. If I wanted to see how the rest of my team's calling performance was this week or today, I could have that view as well. So it's all customizable. Any other questions? So we're online. Customers can go and basically buy it off the internet. It's amazing how that works. We also work through partners. So I think the website's right there as well. We're working through partners. So we've got a booth over there that we're demoing, and be interested to talk to anybody if they want to look at our Analytics 365. No more questions? One more?
No, so I'll catch you later. Scott.
All right.
Five for you more.
Perfect.
I don't want to keep everyone else here.
They're all over there waiting for you to rush over.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I won't throw it.